Hello and welcome to today's Cryptic Crossword Masterclass with me, Mark. Now, Simon asked me to do the puzzle this week, although I'm hearing that there is a chance that his activity has been cancelled today and he will be able to do the puzzle. We'll put that on Patreon, assuming it happens. So check out Patreon. You can watch Simon solve of the same puzzle that I'm about to do, and you may prefer his explanations. I'm going to try and go nice and slowly and explain what I'm seeing, how I'm thinking, and definitely how the clues work as we go, which is a slight change of pace. Earlier in the week, I practiced 6 times crosswords in a row, and some general knowledge crosswords, and you can see those on our Patreon already. If you are with us on Patreon, do consider joining. There's loads of cryptic crossword content. Every month I do the Times Monthly Club special there as well, so always worth having a look. Now, that is the introduction. Let's see what we've got in store today. So the odd thing is that there's something called luxury crossword here, which I've never seen before. What is that? Don't know. After I've had a go at the cryptic, today's Times crossword, I think Simon normally has a speed run at the Times Quick Cryptic, so I can get back into speed run mode and do that. Maybe we'll have a look at the luxury crossword as well. There must be a story to go with that. They have published a sort of modern slang crossword before, and there are various specials that occur. This could be just advertising of some sort. I don't know. I've never seen luxury crossword. I don't even know that 2-word phrase. Anyway, let's have a look at today's Times crossword. I'm not going to check out on the difficulty before it because I just like tackling them as they are and then just finding out what the difficulty is as we go along. Ooh, that's not very well screened there. Let's get the whole grid into the screen. There we go, and we can still read the clues. So, 1 across. House reports worker installing stairs in odd place. Well, a worker could be an ant or a bee or a drone or a hand. However, stairs in odd places is very specific crossword lingo. The odd numbered spots in the word stairs, numbers 1, 3 and 5, are S, A and R. So I think we're going to put S, A and R into something. I did mention hand as one of my synonyms for worker, which I wouldn't normally think of very quickly. But if you put SAR into hand, you get the word Hansard, and you would probably either need to be British or very good at general knowledge to know that that is the document that faithfully records the proceedings in both, I think, the House of Commons and the House of Lords, are 2 houses of Parliament every day. So that's an unusual one for 1 across. But luckily I do know that. Let's have a look at Hansard is one of those names. There must have been someone called Hansard. It's a bit like Wisdom, which doesn't immediately tell you that it's the ultimate Bible on cricket statistics, but it is. Anyway, 1 down. Following brief strike, call staff building. Right. Following can mean the letter F, but it doesn't look like it does that here. It can just mean after something else. And what I'm looking at here is brief then. Brief means often cut something short. To strike, well, the simplest synonym is it. So if we shorten that, we've got HI. Call. Can we think of a 4-letter synonym for call? Well, ring. If you call someone on the phone, you ring them. That would give us high ring, which is staff building. Now, staff building sounds like it's an office, but in this case, it's building the staff or hiring them. So we've got our answer to 1 down. Let's have a look at 2 down. It begins with N. I probably unsurprisingly focus on the answers where I have some check letters once I get going. 2 down. Worthy excuse for a TV dinner? Well, the question mark implies there's something unusual going on here. You have to impute a meaning to something that it doesn't normally have. Worthy, given that the question mark's at the end, it's either talking about a slightly funky definition for the answer or some more possibly punning wordplay. Worthy is therefore probably the definition. So can you think of an excuse for having a TV dinner, which is kind of a tray on your lap or on the sofa? And one excuse might be that you had no table, and that would give you notable, which does mean worthy. I mean, I've seen that kind of breakdown of wordplay for notable a number of times, but that is very neatly put together, an excuse for a TV dinner. I haven't seen that exact wording before. 3 down, let's have a look at this. Gas expert on river containing half of leak. Now, the very fact that gas expert is meant to be read together in the surface makes me want to split them up for the actual cryptic reading of the clue. So I'm thinking that the definition is probably gas. We're looking for a 9-letter answer that means gas. Now, expert on river containing half of leak. Well, an expert, we've got an A. Can we think of an expert beginning with A? Half of leak, that's very specific. That almost certainly means either LE or possibly AK. So can we think of a gas beginning with an expert that begins with A? Well, the first gas I could think of that began with A, and it took me a little while, is acetylene. And the first expert I would have thought of beginning with A is probably an ACE. So that seems like it's working. Half of leak can be LE in that, and that leaves Tyne to be the river. That's the river that flows through Newcastle. And what we're getting is ACE and then LE contained by Tyne. And we put that all together and we get this gas, acetylene. Right, I'm going to switch to the acrosses. We've got R something, T something here. I haven't looked at the clue. I'm randomly guessing Rotterdam at the moment. And the first word in the clue is port. So I could be onto something here. Port and rhubarb trade reshaped capital of Malta. Well, you may know that the capital of Malta is Valletta, but that won't be relevant. Port, Rotterdam would work, so now I'm just trying to justify why it's Rotterdam. Rhubarb, well, let's pass over that for a moment, because this is kind of 2 versions of ancient English or ancient British English slang. Trade reshaped, well, that does look like a bit of an anagram. Capital of Malta, what's the capital letter in Malta? It's the letter M. So we can see that in Rotterdam we have Turda, the reshaping of trade. It ends with an M, and therefore rhubarb equates to rot. Now you might wonder how that works if you don't know older British slang. And both of those words can mean nonsense or rubbish. You're talking absolute rhubarb, you're talking absolute rot. Now, we've got N something, B something, Y. Not many things will fit in that, but I can think of 2 words. And the clue is smart, superior, wanting introduction. And that's interesting, because I was expecting the answer to be nobly, but I don't think it is. I think it is probably knobby. And why I think that's interesting is I think there are 2 words knobby, and one begins with a K. The one that begins with a K, I would have said, is defined as like a knob, like a doorknob, or some sort of other knob. And I would have said that both knobby, meaning looking very dapper or well turned out, which I have heard rarely. I can see that knobby, that would be just beginning with an N, meaning smart. However, I would also have said that superior means like a knob. And a knob in that sense is a slang term for a kind of aristocrat or somebody who thinks they're superior. And I wouldn't have spelt that with a K. So the wanting introduction, which implies in want of, lacking the introductory letter. Oh, snobby. Ah, there you go. I didn't think of snobby, right. So the definition of superior in this clue is snobby. That word wants its introduction and becomes nobby, wanting there meaning in the older sense of lacking. And then we get the word smart. Okay, so I do understand that, but I was struggling to see how nobby with a K was being defined by superior, and that's because I was on the wrong track. That does happen sometimes. In a competition, and there is one next month, I would probably have just written in nobby, been a little surprised, not really thought about it too much, moved on to the next clue, and not quite understood. So here we go. Let's have a look at 4 down. Useless line again entertains old comedian. Well, I was immediately thinking of Ken Dodd. Now, we've already had some older British references, and I would count Hansard and Rot, and even Nobby amongst them. But if we were really dealing with Ken Dodd, that would be amazing, because he was popular in the 1970s. That's quite a while ago now. Anyway, I don't think we are, probably, and I don't know what the answer is here. Useless line again entertains old comedian. So I'm going to tell you some of the, we're always looking for short synonyms. So I'm going to tell you some of the short synonyms for comedian that I can think of or that would come to mind. They are wit and wag and maybe card. But they're not helping me get the answer. Useless, dud. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what could begin with dud and fit this letter pattern? I think I've got it. So the line, it's quite hard. You do need to think of this comedian. And, well, I said the 1970s for Ken Dodd. I think this comedian was more prevalent in the 1960s. That may be unfair. Maybe also the 1970s. Slightly before my time. And I'm nearly 60. This is Dudley Moore, who was a comic partner of Peter Cook, and they were very funny. There were a number of records and things. I guess they kept making material into the 80s. In fact, when Dudley Moore appeared as the star of the film Arthur, in case you've seen that. But the way that the wordplay breaks down here is dud for useless, and that's how I got onto this. Line is lay. A ley line is a sort of mystical line in the countryside that is supposed to have some historic or possibly magical significance. I won't say more about that because I don't really know enough about them to either criticize belief in ley lines or expatiate on how realistic they are. So I don't know. Again, here is the word more, M-O-R-E, and that's entertaining O, a standard abbreviation for old. So in it goes Dudley Moore. And yeah, okay, we're definitely dealing with a setter, I think, who is as old as I am, or nearly, or more likely, more old. So, I mean, to have Rot and Hansard, I mean, that is still the record of Parliament, so it's a bit unfair to criticise that for being old. I still think younger people aren't really going to know it. I hope I'm wrong. Let's have a look at 14. Rulings, stop lackeys gathering inside of gate. Well, as always, once we've got some letters in the grid, I'm really working off these checking letters. And the only thing I could think of that is going to begin this pattern was determine. So there's a lot of inflections of determine, and rulings could be determinings or determinations. I feel like determinations is 14 letters. So let's see if I can justify that. I was thinking that stop might be term within that, but that was wrong. Stop is deter. If you deter someone from doing something, you stop them. At least you discourage them. You maybe stop them. Anyway, the lackeys then, gathering inside of gate for minations. The inside of gate is the letters A-T. They're being gathered by minions, and minions, before they appeared in Despicable Me films, were lackeys, servants, vassals, gophers. Why are all those 7 letters? Oh, servants aren't. So that's determinations. Now, shall we look at the 554 or shall we start with the downs? Let's look at the long one, 554. Manoeuvre that could get you sent from nest. Ah, that's very interesting. So I'm getting this from the enumeration and the definition manoeuvre. And well done if you can do that. Now, what's happening with sent and nest? They are clearly using the same letters. So an anagram could get you sent from nest, or anagramming it. But there are other ways of getting sent from nest, and one of them is turning round the first three letters. Now, those are not just letters. SEN are also compass points, south, east, and north. So if you turn round the three compass points in this word sent, you get the word nest. So although the clue reads very prettily as though somebody is being ejected from a bird's nest, it's actually dealing with the word sent and the word nest. This is the use-mention distinction that we have so often in crossword clues. We have to determine which words are being mentioned, and look at their letters, and which words are being used for their meanings. Anyway, if you turn around those 3 points, you're doing a 3-point turn, and that is the name for turning your car around in the road, which is one of the essential manoeuvres in doing a driving test. I'm not sure, I think it is actually mandatory that every driving test to get a license includes doing this 3-point turn. It's called a 3-point turn because you turn away from the direction you were going, then you back towards that same direction, rotating the car again, and then you finally do the 3rd point and you head in the 180-degree different direction. Now this has given us a couple of double letters. We've got N something N in 13 down and T something T in 15 down, just by coincidence, I think. So let's have a look at 13 down. Relative casually left after sailor overturned dish. Okay, what have we got going on here? We've got some very generic words like dish, which can refer to an item of crockery or something served as a course in a restaurant or on a table. So dish, there are other meanings, like it can also mean to spoil something or to gossip, or somebody very attractive. So dish is pretty open-ended, especially as there are so many foodstuffs that would qualify as a dish. Sailor. Sailor has a number of possibilities. Tar is possibly the most common slang word for a sailor, T-A-R. We're always looking for these short synonyms. There's also A-B for able seaman, O-S for ordinary seaman. Jack is another slang word for a sailor. There may be more that I can't think of at the moment. Overturn normally means backwards, especially in a down clue. So the other interesting things are relative casually left. Left can be the letter L, most commonly that's what it is, but it can also be synonyms for departed or bequeathed or gone. Relative casually. Wow, there are a number of ways of addressing relatives in a casual manner, and I'm thinking of bro, sis, mum, dad. But if we expand it up to another generation, we've got gran and grandpa and nan and nana. And if a nana is looking good for this N blank N or nan. So let's think about that now. What could we put N-A-N, maybe even nana with one N or two? Banana occurs. So is there a dish? Well, now we're thinking about food. Banana split. That works because split can be left. If you split, you departed in a hurry, you left. And it's using the past tense, split. And BA is the reversal of AB, one of our sailors, able seaman. So this is a banana split. a very delicious ice cream dessert, in my personal opinion. Right, we'll move on to 15 down. Totem pole would fit. Let's see what we get. Place once for storage in Bath with term almost up. I don't think this is totem pole. Place once for storage in Bath with term almost up. Well, my mind has gone to place once for storage does look like a definition. It would be very long-winded for just telling you something short within the wordplay. And I've thought of a tithe barn, which is, I don't know how it's connected with the tithe or the church tax. Maybe it's for storing the 10% tax on the local villages by the church. Is that what a tithe barn was originally for? I don't know. But there are such things as tithe barns, and that fits. So I think that's the place once for storage. Okay, this is just an anagram, in fact. In Bath, and most of the word term is T-E-R. That's 9 letters, and they do anagram to tithe barn. So in that goes. Right, let's go back up to 12 across. Try and finish off the top half if we can. E something B. And again, we've got 5-4. Fiddler on the Roof surely has such scope. Well, I would never have got that from the clue alone. But scope is the definition, or such scope. And we're just looking at a sort of cryptic definition here. If you can think of any word that is 5 letters beginning E something B that can be part of a compound phrase. So don't worry about embar or ember. Ember days? Anyway, it's not ember days. Think about elbow. What's that got to do with a fiddler on the roof or scope? Well, elbow room is the phrase. That is scope. And I guess a fiddler on the roof is getting his elbow out, and because he's on the roof, he's got a lot of room. He's not in a closet or something where he might struggle for room. Is that really what this is about? I think it is. That's a strange one in some ways. Okay, let's look at the downs. 5 down. Add up characters in Iliad in reverse order. Well, I would have said to add up is to sum or to tot, or sum fits here. Why is that characters in Iliad in reverse order? And that is because mu is one of the Greek letters. The plural of that is, I suppose, muse. And if you write the letters of M-U-S, muse, in reverse order, you get sum. 6 down ends in a W. Now, not many words do that are 5 letters, but elbow is one of them. Cellar that's been exposed with fund. That's difficult. Is the definition's always at one end or the other. This is a great tip. Like, stick with that. Cellar or fund are probably the definition. And I couldn't think of anything that was cellar. They almost all end in R, words meaning cellar, like hawker or peddler. Or flogger. But fund, there is a word that ends in W, and that's endow. How are we getting that out of cellar that's been exposed? Well, we're not. We're getting it out of cellar that's been exposed with. The with is part of the wordplay, because with can mean the letter W. So the cellar in this case is a vendor, and the vendor has been exposed by losing the top letter and the bottom letter, and we're just getting the exposed middle of endo on top of our W to get endow. Okay, 7 down, tombolo would fit. That's a word I learnt this week in that Patreon video I mentioned where it meant a long spit of sand or something under the sea. I had never heard that word before. I doubt that it's going to be the answer now, but you never know. What may be heard from pit? Crosses Olympic Coliseum. What may be heard from pit? So, is the definition Coliseum, or is it what may be heard from pit? Well, again, what may be heard from pit is quite a long phrase. It's hard to break that down into separate wordplay elements. So that might well be the definition here. Crosses Olympic Coliseum. Difficult to get much out of that in terms of short synonyms, and that's because this time we're looking at a hidden. The answer is hidden in the phrase Olympic Coliseum. I mean, it crosses it. It covers the front half and the back half. And if you start with the P in Olympic and read the next 6 letters after that, you get piccolo. Why might that be heard from a pit? Because that pit would be an orchestra pit. And that's the answer. Right, 5 across. Small individual upset player on pitch. Now, a keeper might be a player on a pitch, but skeeper isn't a word, so that's not so good. Sweeper is a player on a pitch, so the definition is at the end. That's not wordplay. Small individual upset is giving us sweeper. What it's giving us is S for small and weeper, because presumably a weeper is an individual who's upset. A sweeper or libero plays in front of the back 4 in a football team, or back 3. Now, 10 across. I see rat in retreat, a Russian one. Again, the letters that we've got really spark thinking about this. I think it would be very difficult to get that from the wordplay alone. But a Russian one is not actually a complete definition. What we're getting here is a reuse of a word. So in retreat is part of the wordplay here. It's telling us to send backwards synonyms for I see rat, honestly. But it's also then being brought into the second part of the clue, which is now saying a Russian retreat. And a dacha is where a Russian goes into the country as his holiday home. So what is retreating to give us that dacha? It's CAD, and I see can be defined by the interjection R, and CAD is a rat because that's a bad person. Right, we will go to 8 down to complete the top half. Bring up the majority at the very end. Well, at the very end, surely that's rearmost. To bring up is to rear. This is a lovely feature of the language and very popular in crossword clues for the word rear, because not only does bring up mean to rear in the sense of bringing up a child, but you can bring up the rear in a totally different sense of rear. Anyway, bring up is rear, the majority is most, and at the very end is rearmost. So we're done with the top half. We can move to the bottom. Now I've got a choice of a word with 2 checked letters, or words with only 1, though, that have the letter nearer the beginning. E blank S is not promising. Actually, let's go to this one, T blank N. There'll be a limited number of words that fit here, like tangent. Okay, the clue is attempt nursing former queen where skin is treated. Or I've read that as you're meant to read it. I suppose the surface reading is attempt nursing former queen where skin is treated. But this is not about a queen with a skin disease. This is, the word attempt is nursing or containing a former queen. So attempt beginning with a T, that's try, clearly. Well, we can't put an R there in this string, so we'll put the RY at the end. The former queen that can fit inside try must be Anne, given these letters. And a tannery is where leather is made, so it's not human skin being treated there, I hope. It's animal skin. Let's have a look at 19 down. Sensuous salesperson over cycling. Right, cycling has a very specific method in crossword clues, where it means starting at not the beginning of a word, continuing to the end, and then starting over at the beginning. So if you cycle the word, I should think of a word where this is possible, and it's difficult off the top of my head. Okay, but if you think of the word scamp, you could cycle that by starting at the C and get camps, and that is sort of cycling round, and that's almost always what cycling means when it appears in the clue. After that long explanation, it would serve me right if it just meant bicycling here. Anyway, censure. We've got an R, and I'm immediately thinking either rap or maybe even reprimand. Can rep be short for reprimand? But salesperson, that can be rep as well. Over can be in respect of, concerning. I don't know what the answer is here. I suppose censure, reprimand, reprove. There we go, that's what's happening. So the salesperson, it's not rap then. The salesperson is a rep. Over is the word cycling. And if you cycle over, starting at the R, you get rove. And if you add that to rep, you don't get rove, you get reprove, which means to criticise. More common in the noun form, reproof, I think. Anyway, 23 across. Banish, cross page, occupying overturned shelter. Well, expel is looking good for banish here. Cross can be X because it is in the shape of a cross. Page can be P, that's a standard abbreviation from books or referring to them. Now, what do you put XP in to get expel? You put it in eel, which is an overturned lee. Now, that's not an air raid shelter or anything, or a tent. That is the shelter on a ship, the lee side of it. If I'm in your lee, I'm being sheltered by you from the wind, very specifically, if only metaphorically. 20 down. In a monotone, starts to lecture youth lifting tire. Well, we've got an L and we've got a Y, and the starts to lecture youth are L and Y. I don't actually know what this is. So I think in a monotone is the definition. So you're doing something in a boring way. Starts to lecture youth are L and Y. Ah, okay, so flatly. If you speak flatly, you're speaking in a monotone, perhaps. And a tire, it could be a flat if you're very unlucky and it's been punctured. So L and Y are lifting tire in that they're supporting the flat. They're acting as the car jack for the flat tire, I suppose. I mean, that's quite amusing, actually, now I've thought of that comparison. 25 across. Terrible 2, balk a public stroll. Well, balk. Balk is a very old word to include in the clue. Let's use the letters in it instead. Let's use the letters in 2 balk A because they seem to have been strung together very deliberately. They're not very appealing letters. If you saw that on Countdown, you might not immediately be thinking there's a 9-letter word possibility. But there is, and it's walkabout. Now that started as a word for an Aboriginal rite of passage in Australia, I believe, where young Aboriginals were encouraged to go out into the bush on their own, into the outback, and walk about for days, I presume. But it has now become what happens when the royals greet people in public. They do a walkabout, and that's why I think it's a public stroll. I don't think that's about the Aboriginals. 25 down. Pan Labour when Republican is baned. Is baned? I tell you what, that's a misprint in this clue. By the time, if you are doing the Times crossword yourself later in the day, you do this puzzle, someone will have pointed out to the editor that that is not meant to be baned, which is a very, not even sure bane is a verb, but if it is, it's a very old usage. That is meant to say banned, and I know that because the pan in question here is a cooking pan rather than the pan implied, the verb implied by the title. Labour has a synonym of work, and when you ban R, Republican, out of that, you get wok, the Chinese pan. So that clue should say banned, and it doesn't. So we have, for once, caught the Times out in a misprint. 26 across. Thugs regularly given blow and grass. Now, at the start of the crossword, we found stairs giving, and it said oddly, and we took the odd letters out of stairs. Regularly does the same sort of thing. It takes every other letter out of a word. Now that would either give us HG from thugs or TUS. Thugs regularly given blow and grass. I don't think this is really about street youth being given drugs. I think this is TUS and a sock for a blow. We had hit in one down, we now have a sock. And TUS and sock give us tussock, which is not perhaps the most obvious grass. It's a kind of tuft of grass growing somewhere, but it is the answer. 16 down now. Most durable Arab quarters may be close to desert. Well, is that close to desert? Does that mean sandiest? No, I don't think it does. I think the definition is most durable. Arab quarters maybe. Don't know exactly what that is, but I think we're meant to read the close to desert or dessert. The last letter of dessert is going to be T, and that's at the end of this. So Arab quarters maybe is giving us the first 7 letters of a superlative, meaning most durable. Sturdiest is too long. Staunchest is too long. Stiffest is the right length, but I don't think is quite the right definition. Strongest is too long. There's a lot of words for durable that begin ST, and I don't know what the answer here is, so well done if you've done it. The quarters could be the E and the S before T, so stud. As an Arab could be a horse, a horse at stud or a steed. I don't know the answer. Well done if you've got that. There's your chance to absolutely know one before I even figure it out. Chip from hot tin ends in O, this flipped with egg. Well, the egg could be the letter O. Hot tin, flipped. Tin can be SN, the scientific abbreviation for tin in the periodic table, or it can be a can. So if we take H for hot, as on a tap, and we put it with can, H can, and we flip it, then we've got natch coming before O for egg, and that gives us nacho, which is a chip, which is not the sort of chip you would expect to eat with an egg, but is nonetheless a very valid chip. And since I would never eat an egg, I'd be more likely to have a nacho. 24 across. Principle relating to a culture that's unnamed. Principle can be a tenet or a maxim or an adage or all sorts of things. But it could also be an ethic. And relating to a culture can be ethnic. How are we relating ethnic to ethic? We're taking out N. Why is that? That's unnamed, and that's because N can be an abbreviation for name, and therefore it's being unend, this word, and that's why we get the abbreviation. That's why we get the question mark, because it's not really being unnamed, it's just having the name taken away, which is an indirect way of saying it's being unnamed. I can tell you that Shane, who's currently the editor of the Times Crossword, wouldn't allow that in one of our Magpie crosswords, but does allow it in the Times because it's kind of grandfathered in as a technique. Right, 18 down. Fresh search nets 0 fish. We've got R, H and S to appear in this answer. So they all appear in the word search, and fresh can be an anagram indicator. So we're going to use a fresh ordering of the letters in search, and then we're going to net 0. That's O again, just as egg was O in nacho, 0 is O in this. And we have to put O in an anagram of search to get fish, and those are roaches. Now, oddly, roach can be used to mean an insect, which is a cockroach, or some type of fish. So there we go. And I don't know enough about fish to tell you anything about a roach. So we've got 21 across. Now, there's quite a lot of words that would still fit here, I reckon. I can think of plainness straight away, if we're looking for a ness ending, or brainless, if we're looking for a less ending. But we could also be looking for an ERS ending, and flaunters would fit, for instance. Let's have a look at the clue finally. Thick book, perhaps very dry. So dry is very clearly the opposite of something. So I think we're looking at a less ending. Very dry, what could that be less? It could be rainless. And that brings us back to brainless, which I did mention. B for book, rainless for perhaps very dry. It's not the only way to be very dry, but it is one way. And that gives us brainless, thick meaning stupid there. And here we go. I did not think of whatever this answer is. I think it could be stablist now. So Arab quarters. The quarters are not compass points this time. The Arab quarters are stables, because an Arab horse may be quartered in a stable. And therefore we get stablist. And I think that is the solution to this puzzle, which I would have actually assessed as not hard for a Friday. That's really quite manageable for a Friday. And I'm going to submit this as the solution. We'll check that it's right. Interesting to find the misprint in the clue. And let's look at the completed solvers. I'm quite early in the day, so there won't be many that we can trust here. Let's show the full top 100 just to get an idea. All of these first 6 are not genuine solvers. Then we get John McCabe at number 7 with a time of 4 minutes 58, as quick as one would expect from John. Verlaine is genuine. Pontius is a slow typist at number 8. Why people would bother to solve the puzzle somewhere else and then type it very slowly into the grid, I don't understand, but anyway. Verla, and why they couldn't then press complete without leader or submit without leaderboard. Oh, mind you, I just did that, didn't I? I submitted with the leaderboard because I'm so used to doing that every day. And I wish I'd submitted without the leaderboard, because that will have deteriorated my average times. Anyway, I make enough typos that my average times don't really count for much. Verlaine is a very good solver. Matthew Marcus, current times crossword champion, hoping to see him next week. 7 minutes 37. Hazy is very good solver, super speed solver on the concise crossword. 7 minutes 58. I recognise Andy Fisher at 8 minutes 48. Tom Stubbs at 10 minutes 48. And I would say that those times make this crossword not the easiest of the week, maybe, but easier than normal for a Friday. Let's say that and go back to the puzzle. Was there anything we needed to look up in the dictionary here? I don't think so, really. I'm sure Dudley Moore won't be in it. He's the one you're likely not to have heard of. Tithe barn, maybe. Or maybe the dictionary would tell me what the reason that a tithe barn is called a tithe barn for. So let's have a look. Tithe barn. Formerly a barn for storing the tithe in corn paid by a parish. There you go. That's what it is. So unsurprising, perhaps. Okay, so now are we going to have a look at the other puzzles? I'm going to do a speed run on the quick cryptic. So less talking, more action here. Let's get cracking on this one. Drink after very final message. I don't know what that is. That's annoying. Composer, non-believer in one. Pagan in one. Paganini. Right, 3 down. See Papa getting bothered over daughter is appeased. Anagram there. Past glories initially making one very keen. Some comedians were giving a reply. That's hidden. Worker, not one pro, is anti. Let's look at 10 across. Gawain is the good night there. Anagram here. Oh, salaried. That's because I've mistyped appeased. That's annoying. Right, that's time wasting. Salaried, 13 down. Must be Las Vegas, it is. It's an anagram. 14 down. Request. That's entreaty. Let's try 15 across. D and S, that must be Hebrides. Females at matches of brides. 17. E.g. London City. Yeah, that's out of society. Learner, not the first person to be paid for work. Earner, that's very straightforward. Something shiny in church. C. Chrome. The Holy See. That's hard. Right, we've got a moth there. Something ending in A. One way of saying artist. In camera. In came RA. Has quite a complicated wordplay for this puzzle. President has soldiers once. Reagan. It is, yeah. Okay. Longwood is pine. Double deaf. Christmas storybook. That's Noel. Novel there. Sprain. R in Spain. That's kind of what I was expecting. House by River. That's Horace with virtuoso poet. Pet. Roughly speaking, a fool. I don't know what that is. Keep check. Retain. That works. A base for thieves. A den. Can we do 7 across? I don't like that one. Vice. No, I don't know why it would be vice. Canoodle. Oh, something went wrong with the typing there. Let's try that again. Canoodle. Drink after very final message. Varley. V and ale. Wow, there we go. That's a bit quicker. Have we got... This is the kind of... this. Oh, well, I mistyped earner. That's bad. That's how these typos occur, sorry. And I wasn't checking, I was just trying to get a fast time. Now, this grid is sometimes called a portcullis because it kind of sticks up and down at the ends. And often they're used to hide messages around, but it doesn't look like that's happened here, so not worth checking. Shall we have a look at luxury crossword, just see what happens there? I might abandon this if it's not something I want to do. Oh my goodness, okay, I don't like this. Win a £50 Harrods gift voucher with our luxury crossword. Okay, well, I mean, okay, I don't like it because the grid pattern is not what a professional compiler would do. Loads of double unchecked letters or double unches together. In fact, quadruple unch and one across. Right, I should have realised that that luxury crossword was a competition and therefore I would be giving away the answers if I solved it in front of you. So you don't get to see that. we shall see you next time on the Masterclass next Friday, and thank you for watching. Do check out, if you're interested, Simon's video of solving the same crossword as me on Patreon. See if he goes about it a different way. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.